Hello, Rob. I have a question for you regarding the privacy risk score.
Yeah.
My first question would be, how is the privacy risk score calculated?
Xavier, thanks very much for that question. It's in fact our most frequently asked question. So I'm very delighted to have an opportunity to answer it. So effectively, the score is made up. We do a scan of the website looking for all cookies, objects, and tracking technologies. And what we're looking at is cookies that are set before consent is being given. So you might have, it may be that there's a consent management platform on the site, but if cookies are being set, they will be, before consent is given, they will be reported. So that makes up the basis for the objects and the cookies, etc. that we've got. Then the score it's intelligent. It doesn't just look at the number of cookies that we've got. It's more the number of cookies, the type of cookies, the combination of the cookies, and importantly, who the ultimate data recipient is. So if it's going to be a third party, particularly if it's it might be a US organization, etc., and we know the data is then getting shared with a third party, maybe for advertising purposes or whatever. This is going to factor into the risk score, and it's going to make a difference to the score and the number that you get. And ultimately, what we're looking at is the risk score is based upon the impact on privacy. So yeah, that's how it's calculated.
Thank you. Do some tracking tech or objects weigh more than others?
Yes, again, as I kind of alluded to there, it would be particularly if the data is being shared with third parties. Obviously, first party cookies probably won't score as high as third party cookies do. But particularly say when that data is being shared, it might be being aggregated by the recipient to put with other data sources, etc., that they're going to score more because the data obviously is leaving that organization and going to that third party. So that does make a difference.
Okay, thank you, Rob. And what about the retention period? Does it have an impact as well on the score?
Yes, absolutely it does. The retention. So if a cookie's going to be a persistent cookie there, and it's going to be there for 100 years, for example, which you do see on sites, then that's going to score more than something that's going to get deleted maybe after 90 days or 180 days or something of that nature. So that will impact it too.
Thank you. Rob, what about strictly necessary cookies? It's legal to set these prior to consent being given. How do these impact the risk score?
Yeah, absolutely. So you've got things like the consent management platform cookies themselves, and you've got load balancing cookies, for example, which will both go into the necessary cookies. So yeah, these are legal to be set before consent is given. They're seen as essential, and these will score very low on the risk index. So they will actually score. We will find them. They will be set before consent has been made, but they get a very, very low score because obviously they're necessary. And we make in the risk index and the risk score, we make an allowance for those cookies. So if you score anything under 12, then we would say that it would have a very minimal impact on privacy. So typically, and the site would be assessed as a very low risk site. So yes, you can set those cookies and they will attract a very low score.
Okay, that's quite clear. How do I use the privacy risk score? Why is it useful?
Yeah, I think this is very important, and the reason we put the kind of score together, I think that quantifying the risk is actually quite difficult for an organization. It may be that how bad is it, and with the score it just gives you an instant picture, runs very quickly, and the higher score you get will reflect that you're probably setting quite a few tracking cookies or tracking technologies, and the higher the score will indicate that those cookies would normally require consent, and they're being set prior to consent being given. and they're probably third-party cookies as well, and that will make you a very high score. So the score itself is just about this instant picture that you've got of your risk and quantifies it for you, but it also allows you to, I think really importantly, track and demonstrate improvement over time, both within your organization and very importantly, and probably even more importantly, potentially to the regulator. So should they investigate, you can show that you've got a process in place where you're tracking this over time and hopefully making improvements over time. And typically that's what a regulator wants to see, that you're actually conscious of the issue and you're managing it.
Okay, so that's why the monitoring of the privacy risk score is so important.
Yeah, but I think
the evolution.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, absolutely. I think the monitoring piece is the key, because the only constant with a website is change. There's new content being comes in all the time. There's changes to within a CMS, for example, that can have an impact. So it doesn't stand still, and that's one of the this is not a one-off project. So again, by using the monitoring capability, and you can look across your website or a number of websites over time and track the changes. And again, something else that would be very, very important should the DPA come knocking, or the CNIL come knocking, and you can kind of show evidence over time.
It's a real tool, the monitoring of the privacy risk score for adequacy.
Indeed.
Like the regulation is asking for. Okay, one very, very good, short last question. Mm-hmm. How could you explain that some prospects or clients think they have done the job on consent, mm-hmm. with the banner, with the consent management platform, and they get a very high score?
Yes. Let me explain that if I can. I mean, look, without looking in detail at any specific website, it's obviously it's impossible to know exactly why that would be. But I can give you a couple of reasons why it typically happens. Usually, or one of the big reasons, is that you will get cookies whilst they're being managed by the consent management platform, we see it time and time again where the cookies are actually set, and then consent is asked for, and if consent isn't provided, the cookies are then retracted or deleted. That's too late by then, because particularly with any data that's going off to third parties, that's already gone. So that's one of the reasons, is you need to make sure that the cookies are not set. They only set after the permission has been given. So that's one area that we see a lot. The second one is usually it's just a misclassification of cookies. So, I think the CNIL is very clear about, and the other DPAs as well, what is an essential cookie and what is not. The way I always look at it is, it's essential. It has to be essential to the user or the operation of the site, not essential to the organization who wants to set the cookie. And I think if you can keep those rules, then you'll be safe. But that's another reason we see that cookies are basically classified as essential, and they're not.
Rob, it's all clear. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Good stuff.